You've probably had a moment when leaving was the logical choice, but staying felt like the only way not to betray yourself. On the night of April 14th, 1912, Ida Straus stood at that exact edge, not in a metaphor, but at lifeboat number 8 on the Titanic. The boat was ready. Women were being helped in. Ida, 63 years old, had the chance to live. According to steward Alfred Crawford, she had already stepped toward the lifeboat. Then she stopped. Her husband, Isidor Straus, could not come with her, and Ida stepped back. She reportedly said, "We have been living together for many years, and where you go, I go. One step away from survival, one step back to him." But why would someone do that? Before that night, Ida and Isidor weren't symbols. They were not a scene from a movie. They were a married couple who had spent more than 40 years building a life together. They married in 1871. They moved through immigration, business, family, public status, private routine. Isidor became tied to Macy's in New York. Ida was not just standing beside a famous man. She was part of the world they had made together. That detail matters, because the lifeboat wasn't only separating two bodies. It was cutting through 4 decades of shared identity. Their cabin on the Titanic was first class. Their luggage, their social position, everything around them said they belonged to the safe part of the ship. But the ocean didn't care about status. By midnight, the warm world of rooms, dinners, letters, and long marriage had been reduced to one cold question. Can you still be yourself if survival means leaving the person who made your life feel like home? After the iceberg struck at 11:40 p.m., the Titanic still looked like a place people could trust. The lights were on. The decks were not instantly swallowed by panic. That almost made it worse. Disaster did not arrive as a monster. It arrived as instructions. Put on the lifebelts. Go to the boat deck, women and children first. At lifeboat number 8, that rule became a wall. On one side were women with a chance. On the other side were men who were expected to wait, step back, and understand what that meant. Isidor Straus was old. He had status. People tried to make an exception for him. Archibald Gracie later said Isidor refused to go while other men remained aboard. That sounds noble from a distance. Up close, it was brutal, because Ida was not watching a stranger obey a rule. She was watching her husband accept death in front of her. And before you decide what you would have done, think about a smaller version of this. Think about the last time a rule told you what was reasonable, but your whole body knew the price would be paid somewhere deeper. Ida was urged toward the lifeboat. The wooden edge was there. The women were there. The sea below was black. She could live. Then came the second choice. Not the official one, the private one. If she entered the boat, she would survive as a widow. If she stepped back, she would die as herself. That doesn't mean death was beautiful. It wasn't. The water was around 28 degrees Fahrenheit. Other lifeboats left with empty spaces. The system had failed so badly that people were forced to turn love, duty, age, gender, and panic into life or death math. Ida handed her fur coat to Ellen Bird, her maid, who would survive. The meaning was plain. You will need this more than I will. Then she stayed, not because fear disappeared. Fear was everywhere. It was in the cold air, the tilting deck, the lifeboat ropes, the faces trying not to understand. But for Ida and Isidor, the deepest rule was no longer printed by society. It had been written over 40 years. Here's the thing. This story is often told as romance, but romance is too small. The deeper mechanism is attachment and identity. In ordinary life, attachment can look quiet. A familiar voice, a seat at the table, a person you look for before you even know you're scared. But under extreme threat, that bond can become the center of the whole nervous system. Ida was not choosing death as an idea. She was choosing the version of herself that still made sense. Isidor had his own anchor, honor, duty, the rule that he would not take a place while other men were left behind. Ida's anchor was different. It was the marriage itself, not obedience, not weakness, a choice. And that's the uncomfortable part. Sometimes survival asks a person to leave behind not only another person, but the identity they built around that person. The quote for this story is simple. Sometimes the thing that saves your body can break the life you recognize as yours. That doesn't make Ida's choice easy. It makes it human. 3 years later, in Straus Park in New York, A memorial was dedicated to Ida and Isidore. The inscription says they were lovely and pleasant in life, and in death they were not divided. But the memorial can make the story feel cleaner than it was. There was no clean choice that night. Only a failed system, a freezing ocean, a half-filled lifeboat, and two people standing where instinct met identity. Most of us won't face a lifeboat on the Titanic, but the mechanism is familiar. There are moments when saving yourself means losing the version of yourself you can live with. So the question isn't, would you die for love? That's too easy to answer from a safe room. The harder question is, what is the one thing you could not abandon without becoming a stranger to yourself?